Hey, what's going on, gang? Nate on the Stone here. Welcome back to my channel. When times are tough, you need all the good news that you can get. And a few weeks back, it looked like we actually had a sizable chunk to celebrate over. According to a Fox News poll, the vast majority of Americans are firmly on the side of sanity when it comes to things like statues, memorials, and how we're supposed to see the Founding Fathers. According to this specific poll, 73% of the population, 74% men, 73% women, said that statues of people like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson should stay where they are. 63% of the population said that the Founding Fathers were heroes and not villains. And even 48% of Americans said that Confederate statues and memorials should stay where they are. Woohoo! The silent majority is here and is primed, ready for action. November blowout, baby! Well, maybe not, because the thing is, there are undercurrents beneath this surface good news, undercurrents that the poll itself reveals. For example, 30% of those surveyed who are under the age of 30 said that statues of the founders should be taken down, compared to 47% which said that they should remain. And a full 58% of those polled who are under 30 said that Confederate statues and memorials need to be shuffled off to Buffalo. Even worse, 31% of the under 30 crowd said that they saw the founders as nothing more than villains. And since this under 30 crowd is literally the future of our country, it is terrifying to see a sizable minority of that group willing to axe our history because they see it solely through the light of the 1619 Project. And what makes it even more terrifying is the fact that, just as it was true in the 19th century, a house divided against itself cannot stand.
Oh, it gets better.
Because there is an even bigger problem lurking beneath the numbers of this poll. We know that the vast majority of Americans are for sanity, but that leads to the $64 question. Why is it then that the minority is the group which is pushing society, the culture in our country, in the direction that it wants? This is not a rhetorical or an academic question. Since George Floyd died at the end of May, events have moved at a neck-break speed, proving Lennon right, that sometimes decades pass and nothing happens. And sometimes weeks pass and decades happen. In March 2020, defunding the police was considered a utopian daydream, even by the vast majority of progressives. Now, it's a basic tenet of their ideology. On May 5th, 2020, the idea that George Washington should be excommunicated and banished from the public square was a position that you would find only on the fringes of the web. But now, the New York Times proudly prints op-eds which argues that very point. At the start of June of this year, iconic brands like Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben, the Washington Redskins were still in existence and still part of our lives. Never mind how much they were in the background. Today, they've all been erased. We now live in a society where if you are determined to be insufficiently enthusiastic about Black Lives Matter, you will be suspended from your job. Cancel culture is seen as an expansion of free speech, and laziness is seen as a reclamation of power. So why is the minority winning and the majority losing? The answer is because the majority has lost its civilizational confidence. Civilizational confidence is, simply put, the belief that your culture, history, traditions, customs, beliefs, in short, your way of doing things, is better than any alternative that happens to be out there in the wide world. Now, one of the best unadulterated examples of civilizational confidence comes from General Sir Charles Napier, one-time Commander-in-Chief of India, during the days when the sun never set on the British Empire. At one point during his service on the subcontinent, Sir Charles explained his position on suti, the Hindu practice of throwing widows onto their husbands' funerary pyres, to the locals like this. You say that it is your custom to burn widows. Very well. We also have a custom. When men burn a woman alive, we tie a rope around their necks and we hang them. Build your funeral pyre. Beside it, my carpenters will build a gallows. You may follow your custom, and then we will follow ours. Of course, today, you say anything like what Sir Charles did, or if you express even the faintest belief that one civilization might be better than another, and you will be immediately stamped as a Hitlerian with dreams of establishing the Fourth Reich. Belief in the objective superiority of one civilization, we're told, will lead logically to that chosen nation moving to subjugate all other nations and civilizations underneath itself. Cultural relativism is the only way to prevent another Holocaust. This is dead wrong. The sun never set on the British Empire because England was inferior to the rest of the world. The revolutions of the 18th and 19th century in France, Germany, and Italy were not ignited because the revolutionaries in those countries thought that the American Revolution was nothing to write home about. The plain fact of the matter is that belief in objective superiority of one civilization over others does not automatically lead to a 1,000-year Reich scenario. Think about it like this. A husband is supposed to believe that his wife, for all her faults, is the best woman in the world because of the fact that she is his wife. And conversely, wives are supposed to think the same about their husbands. It is in fact perfectly natural for husbands and wives to think this about each other. It would be abnormal if they didn't. But this doesn't logically lead to other people's humanity being stripped away from them. A man who believes that his wife is the best woman in the world won't ignore the cries for help from another woman as she's being mugged in Central Park simply because he thinks that she is ontologically inferior to his wife. He will, in fact, defend her, if he's any sort of a man at all, to the best of his abilities. In the same way, confidence in our civilization, assurance in the way that we do things, is perfectly natural. Our country is our home, our motherland. And to believe the best of her, and to think that she is the best among all other civilizations and nations, is a natural result of the love, the patriotism that we're supposed to have for her. Of course this belief can lead to dehumanization and oppression. Plenty of people in the past have used it for just such purposes. But this is a perversion of the idea. It's not a logical conclusion from it. History is rife with examples of superiority being used for the common good. For example, Andrew Carnegie, one of America's first millionaires who used his wealth to, among other things, build 1,700 libraries for the poor. Or there's that quintessentially American success story, Walt Disney, who only took a paycheck from Disneyland profits if there was money left over after paying the park workers. And when we move from individuals to countries, we still have examples of superiority being used for the greater good. After conquering Italy in World War II, American Relief for Italy was formed stateside so that people could donate clothes, shoes, and baby supplies to save the lives of the Italian people who had been ravaged by the war. Great Britain, through people like the aforementioned Sir Charles Napier, abolished slavery in India, to the great joy of the slave girls who had been dragged from their homes to be put into the harems of the local wealthy elite. The British also introduced a sense of nationalism and democracy to the subcontinent. The problem isn't the objective fact of superiority, or even the idea of superiority. The real problem is the line between good and evil that divides every human heart, as Civilizational said. In fact, if you're ready for a huge dose of irony, it is cultural relativism that naturally subjugates people by making all people from all nations and all cultures part of the same amorphous blob of humanity by refusing to acknowledge the merits or demerits of actual civilizational and cultural differences, which then allows people simply to shrug their shoulders when they learn that Saudi Arabia allows men to beat women who show their hair, or when they learn that some Amazon tribes actually cannibalize children. But whether civilizational confidence leads to goose-stepping or not is immaterial because civilizational confidence isn't a personal preference. It's necessary for national survival. We all know that we need confidence in our own personal lives to have any sort of success, flourishing, to use a more apropos term, whether that's finding a better job or just a job in general, a girl, a new hobby, a new home, etc. This only makes sense when we remember that confidence isn't an element in our souls, but it's a state of mind. The peace that comes when a person knows that he can rely on his own abilities, talents, and qualities, and doesn't have to lean upon anyone else. He can stand and face the world on his own 2 feet. Confidence is the same for countries and civilizations, and without it, countries stumble. Vietnam, for example, was lost in large part because Americans lost confidence not only in the morality of the war, but also lost confidence in the ability of their leaders to wage it. Nations and civilizations that lose their confidence don't just start to stumble, however. They actively begin to wither. Great Britain, after the humiliation of the Suez Crisis of 1956, for example, lost confidence in being British, and very quickly after that lost its empire and its status as a world power. And when you can no longer stand on your own 2 feet, when you start to stumble, when you start to wither, you actively become prey to smaller predators. How do you think, for example, the Taliban was able to beat the world's lone superpower into a 20-year stalemate in Afghanistan? It had confidence derived from its religion. The US didn't. How were the Poles able to survive decades of Nazi and then Soviet tyranny? Because they had the confidence of their history, heritage, and culture. How were 13 disjointed and quarrelsome colonies able to defeat the 18th century's lone superpower? They had confidence in their cause and in their principles. Now, another $64 question is, why has the majority in America today lost its civilizational confidence? I would guess that it's a convergence of a multitude of factors. The ceaseless bombardment of critical theory in education and in every single piece of entertainment that we reach for. Our absorption of this critical theory through osmosis via social media and the 24/7 news cycle. The atomization of society and the collapse of traditional associations like church meetings, the Masons, Legion of Honor, Boy Scouts, neighborhood groups, etc. The global economy, which has made everyone and everything hideously connected. And most importantly, the loss of our own roots and the deeper meanings of words and individuals who are now part and parcel of the American lexicon, like freedom and George Washington. In short, we've lost ourselves. So why would we be expected to defend ourselves or our way of life? And it will only be in finding ourselves again through vigorous, disciplined study that we will remember who we are, where we came from, our purpose, all of which will in turn restore our confidence. And that will be the point where the tide in the culture wars turn. But as usual, what say you? Is civilizational confidence real? Is it something that's needed for national survival? Or is it just a defense mechanism so that losers can feel better about themselves? As always, let me know your thoughts, ideas, opinions in the comment box below. Well, that about wraps up everything for right now, gang. Before you go, if you could give the video a like and share it with your friends on social media, I'd be obliged. And if you like videos like this, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tickle the bell for notifications so that you will always know when I post new videos like this, videos that you're not going to want to miss. As always, thank you for watching, for giving me a little bit of your day. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel. I appreciate you all. And until next time, gang, remember to stay safe, stay free, by daring to read, think, speak, and write. I'll talk to you all later. Ciao.